Good morning, everyone, and thank you for joining Colliers International India's webinar on property assessment in the post-COVID-19 era. Today's presenters are our experts, Jatin Shah, National Director and the leader of our technical due diligence function, and Divya Seth Maggu, Director, Valuation Services at Colliers International. The presentation will be for about 30 minutes, post which we will open the forum for Q&A. For ease of process, I would request you to type your questions in the questions tab on the control panel and we'll add it to our list. Please add the name of the speaker to your question in case your question is for a specific speaker. While our endeavor is to answer as many questions as possible, please excuse us if we are not able to accommodate all the questions. You can always reach out to us after the webinar with more questions and feedback. Without further ado, I hand it over to Divya Seth, who's our first presenter. Divya, over to you.
Thank you, Sukanya, and a very good morning to all of you. And thank you for taking the time out today for joining us for our session today. Our attendees today are joining us from across locations, and I'm assuming some of you are joining in from home or some from office, depending on which city you're located in. Whatever the case may be, whichever city you're located in fact, whichever country you're located in, or whichever sector you're part of, there's one thing that is common that's going through all of our minds today, and that's with 5 months of the year down already, it's quite clear that 2020 is clearly not going in line with how we had envisaged probably at the start of the year. The impact of the virus has disrupted industries, trade, and cycles of business across the globe, and global economic activity has been significantly impacted. However, we're learning to adapt and we're learning to align. With this, I'll start our presentation for today. If you look at the macro level scenario, the IMF has forecast a worldwide GDP contraction of 3% in 2020 and revised India's growth projection to 1.2% in 2020, which may get further revised when they release their June numbers. Countries like Japan and Germany have already entered a recessionary phase. As per Goldman Sachs, India's economy may contract a huge 45% in the June quarter. And this has resulted in a dip in investor confidence, slowdown in consumption, and loss of jobs. We all know how the stock market has been performing. And we've seen how the stock market has dipped. And if you just look from January to May, the Sensex has dipped by close to 25%. Some sectoral indices have dropped to as much as 40%. And this includes real estate. There are stocks like hotels, travel and entertainment that have been badly hit. Well, there are neutral sectors, but there are clear gainers as well, which include telecom and healthcare, which have risen by more than 10% during the same period of Jan to May 15th. There are a lot of questions on everyone's mind today on how much impact will COVID make on property valuations and projected cash flows. Given the overall uncertainties with respect to timeline for probably a vaccine to be developed and timeline for aligning to a new normal, none of these questions can really be answered with complete certainty. However, one thing is certain, that because of COVID-19, there are conditions which now exist and were not there probably earlier, and hence property assessments and valuations will be looked at differently now versus say 5 months back. There are obviously no transactions to indicate the impact on property markets, whether positive or negative. What we've tried to cover in our session in the next few slides is the impact on demand and supply in the market, which eventually impacts the costs and revenues and thus the property values. The regulatory authorities need to play a crucial role to revive the sector. And given the importance of the sector towards GDP and employment, this becomes even more important. Different regulators have announced various measures, but are they actually enough? $1 million question, but clearly there is an intent to help the sector. Some of the key measures that have recently been announced range from a 6-month timeline extension for RERA compliance to infusion of liquidity by RBI. However, real estate financing continues to be challenging in the current situation, especially for developers. Though RBI has offered a moratorium for a period of 3 months, which probably today as we speak may get an extension as well. However, there are operating costs for a developer which continue to cause a cash burn, especially given the extremely low revenues. And with this extended lockdown, the sector will clearly need more help. Help from the government is required to induce demand, especially in the residential sector. Even though some states have reduced the statutory costs for buying properties, which include reduction in stamp duty and probably a reduction in circle rates in some cases. However, additional measures around fiscal benefits like additional tax saving for home buyers is required to push that demand. I'll now request my colleague Jatin to take us through the estimated impact on various stages of property from a cost and approval perspective. Jatin, over to you.
Thank you, Divya, on giving a very great overview on the impact of economic and the number of steps which Government of India has taken. It was a great insight. I once again welcome all the participants here and the industry experts who have joined us. Just to remind all of you, we have a Q&A session coming up, and we have started receiving some of the questions, and we will try to answer, as Sukanya said, most of them in the coming session. With this, we all have witnessed real estate sector going through very difficult times, and all stakeholders are re-strategizing their steps. The implication of COVID pandemic are felt, and I think they are very dynamic in nature. Every week will present itself a new challenge and possibly opportunities which shall ask all the stakeholders to go back to drawing board and map them out. Broadly, projects in current scenario can be divided into 3 major buckets. One are the projects which are at the design stage or the land stages. The second is the project which has been are under the construction and have been, the third are the projects which are partially occupied or fully occupied. Coming to the projects which are under design stage, a lot of experts have been saying this post-COVID that they are all going to be redesigned. They have been going to be reevaluated. They have been going to be relooked at it. Developers and occupiers have opportunities now to explore and relook at the business model completely. Options of change in usage, new and fresh ideas, integrating concepts, campuses, value adds, co-living, co-works, and various design other efficiencies will be explored. This segment or this is going to explore opportunities and possibly embrace certifications like wellness, sustainability, walk to work concepts, etc. We do not foresee any major help coming in from government on the expedited approval or any kind of relaxation happening on the planning norms. We also see that in current short-term scenario, most of the governing authorities have started realigning their teams, and they are a little stretched on the approval timelines as well. The increasing relevance of technology in building makes like IBMS systems, smart building concepts, and a better indoor air quality, water quality, etc. will be explored to cater all this future requirements. So there is a little impact on this situation. Coming to the buildings which are completed and where the tenants are already there or the occupiers have already occupied the building, the impacts of social distancing, impacts of tailoring the needs to cater to those current requirements, impacts on well-being of the occupiers will be implemented immediately. With very reduced density and a huge investment coming up on hygiene and upkeep, we foresee a slight increment on the cost there. This is also an opportunity for all the occupiers to possibly approach the certification authorities like LEED or WELL or ASSOCHAM and get their premises certified. Going to the next slide, Divya. We have at Colliers launched a navigator strategy, which is basically a workplace strategy developed by Colliers that helps the occupiers to possibly successfully transition from current situation and come and allow the workforce to come and occupy the premises. This offering is designed to provide a solution within 48 hours turnaround time, and it covers 15 major hygienic points, etc. And gives the occupier to a space to be ready for the for a very secured workplace and hygiene workplace. The major issue currently we are seeing are on the projects which are under construction. We know that with all the challenges coming up, the construction have still commenced at site. With all the supports coming from our vendors, suppliers, contractors, they have all quickly analyzed it. They have and we have been all supported accordingly. It's been quick turnaround on this. There are challenges which are coming up in future as well, but there are impacts which is basically due to disruption of supply chain, the related incremental challenges due to transportation issues, related price increases which are coming up because of skilled laborers not being available. There are challenges with respect to price increases which are happening from certain segments, certain materials not being available. There are issues which are going to come up because of claims and contractual issues. There is always, as Divya mentioned, there's an incremental costing happening because of the fluctuation in the currency, etc. The schedule is being witnessed as a delay, though the overall impact, though the current impact might be of 2 months, but overall, this impact has almost gone up to about 4 to 6 months in various sectors. Schedule delays are also in short term are being witnessed due to prolonged deliberations, which might come up as a claim discussion between various stakeholders. The good thing about this is the quality and safety at site has improved. There's a lot of emphasis. Actually, the sites have started looking more cleaner, and there are possible opportunities which we see in this sector with value engineering coming in, with options of every developer or every stakeholder exploring local supplies, possibly alternate sources, alternate markets opening up, and a huge requirement of certifications coming up in the market. So this is a current situation as of now. Divya, the next slide. We have analyzed overall various cost impacts on the various asset classes. We have been speaking to various stakeholders and vendors. Some of them believe that costs are going to go up. Some of them believe that costs might even come down. Both may be right, but it all is because of the time lag and how severe this pandemic is going to last for. The Goldman Sachs report has already given a negative of 45% on the overall outlook. We have also witnessed that in such times, the projects are either, the launches are delayed, which are happening quite a lot. The projects also get cancelled. The construction prices do plummet, and distressed assets come in the market. There is an opportunity here for a lot of investors as well. However, from a cost perspective, with labor crisis, cost of skilled labor going up, manpower reducing, productivity coming down because of social distancing and other norms, cost of keeping up sites clean and free, sanitization, screening at the labor camps, transportation and insurance costs, currency valuation, shortage of material supplies, and claims. There is no doubt all this will have a current immediate impact on construction cost. We anticipate this variance of about 4 to 6% in various asset classes on various cities, but these are all location specific. Some states like Rajasthan, possibly where the laborers have returned back and they will come back to the work in that state, might not have so much of an impact. But some states like possibly Karnataka, where it's more dependent, construction industry is more dependent on migrant laborers, might see an increase happening there. Overall, the industrial segment, the cost impact might be less because we have always been using pre-engineered buildings or in these situations. We also foresee that the minimal impact on the MEP packages, mostly, and the facade package, but mostly the impact will be purely because of the dollar variation, which is happening on chillers and elevators. The impact on hotel and retail sectors primarily is because of reliance on the labor-intensive finishing activities and the sourcing which might happen which was happening from the country outside India. This also opens up an opportunity that the sourcing might be now looked at within the country, and the finishing materials or the FF&E items can be reviewed and can be utilized on the sources which are available within the country. A portion of this, a set-off, can always be accordingly adjusted. A similar pointer is a quick pointer to on the labor intensive, how dependent we are. That out of current 20,000 projects which are happening across the country, we are witnessing a requirement of 9 million workforces, and that is simply not available, and hence the labor costs are going up quite substantially. As I mentioned earlier, this percentages might vary or change depending on the location, but this is our broad understanding of how the costs are going to go up. Some of the vendors have in fact come up and said that cost might increase up to 15%, but we don't foresee that happening over the entire project budget. These are all short-term impacts possibly, but in the longer term, we feel that normalcy will start coming in. Government may help by intervening and relooking at the price of steel and cement and other key materials which are being used in the construction industry. There will be adequate mitigation measures taken by all the developers and the support systems. We will have optional sources being tapped out. It will all become mostly a buyer's market because there might be less construction work happening, so there might be less demand. So cost will start softening up. It might be in Q4, it might be in Q3, later parts of Q3, or it might be Q4. It might not come back to the historical pre-COVID conditions, but it will start softening up. So this is our outlook as of now on the cost impacts. I thank you all again, and Divya, please take us to the further slides on your views on valuation prospects.
Thanks, Jatin. So as Jatin highlighted, there is no denial that COVID-19 has impacted each and every segment of real estate. However, the level of impact on each segment is going to be different. So when we are assessing property, we cannot make a standard impact labeled COVID impact. The impact as the markets are spanning out today is different for different segments, and in fact within each segment different for different players as well. In the beginning, we had discussed regarding some macroeconomic impacts. Apart from those, there are societal changes as well, which are directly impacting the demand for various asset classes. I'll cover some of these societal changes as we go through each asset class. Let's start with residential. We are all aware that residential real estate has been under quite a lot of pressure even before the COVID crisis. The current crisis has created a further stress in this segment in both sales as well as collections sort of drying up during this lockdown. Due to migration and job losses, the demand for affordable and mid-income housing could be lower in the short term. However, once job stability picks up and people start coming back, this demand could see a revival, which could be anywhere between 12 to 24 months. Meanwhile, in the short term, procurement of labor and raw material at the construction sites could be a challenge for developers. We may see disruptions due to construction delay and financing issues. We just heard that the repo rate has been reduced by 40 basis points, but it's important to see how much impact that will have on real estate financing. From a people perspective, it's likely that people may defer home purchases this year till they're able to sort of see some stability in income levels, or when sort of business activities come back to usual levels. Many home buyers may consider postponing their decisions to buy with the expectation of a probable price correction. the strength of the balance sheet of a company now gains huge importance. Survival of the fittest and financially strongest is the new norm today in Indian real estate, and we would see that in the form of consolidations happening. From a valuation perspective, impact on capital values and sales velocity, as well as the realizability of cash flows, will all have a resultant impact on the market values. Availability of financing is becoming challenging, and hence cost of funds may not come down in line with the interest rate reductions being announced by RBI, which again will impact the valuations. Moving on to office. So when we assess income generating properties, the expected demand as well as the projected rents both play a huge role in the entire analysis. So if we look at demand first, 2019 saw a record leasing activity across the country, and the office segment has been on a growth path. In absolute short term, we may see a delay in decision making by occupiers, and that could lead to subdued leasing. In fact, as per Collier's research estimates as well, the annual absorption is expected to dip this year. However, beyond this period of 3 to 6 months, the overall office space garners significant confidence even during this time. If we look at from an absolute space uptake perspective, though corporates may look at increasing efficiencies in workforce either by reducing the number of staff or probably incorporating general work from home options. But once the new social distancing norms come into play, the same corporates will also need a higher per employee space than is currently being used. These two positive and negative aspects would somewhere nullify, and the overall office space requirement should continue to grow, especially in micro markets, which are low on supply and high on traction. Now, if we look from a rent perspective, there are geographies or assets which are top quality, and these house large MNC tenants. And most of these have very low vacancies, and hence downside risk on rentals is also limited. On the other hand, there are grade B office assets where tenants have largely been mid-tier companies or smaller companies whose businesses have been impacted to a great extent during this time. In such buildings or markets, there could be some downside risk to rentals. In fact, markets that are already priced competitively may not face too much of this downward pressure as well, because the buffer there in any case is low. All in all, the level of rent and the overall vacancies will play a key factor in deciding whether the asset will experience rent changes or no. Thus, from a valuations perspective, there will be short-term impact owing to adjustments in forecasted cash flows. Say, for example, there could be some cost escalations that may impact due to a delay in construction timeline. However, the overall aspects like developer profile, tenant continuity, rent stability, all of these need to be evaluated, and they'll play a big role in how each property is placed and evaluated. Moving on to retail and hospitality. Though the impact on retail and hospitality segments is undeniably the highest. However, from an assessment perspective, both differ a bit. The consumer behavior is a bit more tricky to assess in retail as we stand today. Given the current situation, it's likely that consumers may spend cautiously in the short term. In fact, this frugal lifestyle could actually result in demand polarization, either towards value buying or lifestyle-oriented brands. At this point of time, it's quite difficult to predict which way it will go. Ideally, discretionary spending, buying of discretionary items may take time to stabilize, since consumers logically would sort of defer these purchases. However, if we look at an example from, say, China, a huge bounce back was seen in spending on electronics and fashion, which is a discretionary spending. In fact, given the kind of bounce back they saw, they've even coined a new term, revenge shopping. So even in India, once malls open up, retailers may offer huge discounts, which may end up attracting a segment of buyers back. Thus, like I mentioned, it's quite difficult to predict which way the consumer behavior will tilt. But from an operations perspective, the retailers, for them, rents constitute almost 12 to 15% of monthly revenues. All of them are today trying to negotiate on rental payments, especially during this lockdown period, with their respective landlords. Additionally, there is also pressure from retailers for movements towards a complete revenue share model. One will have to see how this pans out between the developer and the brand, because it's currently all a discussion phase. On the hospitality front, especially for the 4 and 5-star category segments, with more than a quarter of loss in revenue, the revenues are expected to decline by 25 to 30% since last year. Cities dependent on international travel will be hugely impacted this year. There would be opportunities for distressed asset sale across cities. In fact, business hotels would probably be better placed compared to other category of hotels. Thus, in both of these segments, developers will need to reevaluate cost structures and asset performance across geographies. Revenues could remain stressed until next year. So owing to this high risk perception, valuations will get impacted downwards. Moving on to industrial and warehousing. This sector was in any case on a growth path. However, the current situation has probably fast-tracked that growth. Online and delivery-based retail models have been clear gainers in the last few months. Supply chain is gaining a huge importance. Retailers are today realizing the importance for building an ecosystem around their consumers through partnerships, be it digital touring of products or shorter delivery periods, etc. In fact, this need to reduce the delivery time is increasing the need for last mile delivery centers, which are typically city-centric. So we may actually see some grade B retail space being taken up by these companies. These digital channels are expected to have sustained growth, and this category would probably witness the maximum long-term mileage given in today's crisis. Some of the other sectors that are likely to see continued demand for warehousing would be pharma and healthcare, apart from FMCG. The sector is expected to become more organized, and with inflow of foreign investments, it would eventually drive efficiencies. If you look at industrial, it has been extensively driven by demand from foreign clients, and it also experienced a growth last year when the corporate tax was reduced. However, this is a labor-intensive sector, and this sector would probably see a lag in recovery, and recovery may be a bit slow. Probably the new social distancing norms may lead to alteration in the manufacturing process. Technology should ideally play a big role in terms of reinvention and innovation in this segment. With global supply chains looking to diversify from China, this could potentially provide a good opportunity to India to expand in this manufacturing sector. However, we will also need a lot of aid from the government from a structural reforms perspective around land, labor, approvals, to generally make it easy for foreign players to invest in India. From a valuations perspective, given the expected growth in demand and the yields and return expectations are expected to remain stable to positive. That's from an overall perspective. This is how we see how each of these segments will play out in real estate, and how each of these segments are expected to be impacted, and how property assessments will vary across sectors. So this is just a general overview of all of these sectors. The impact of the current COVID crisis on India is probably much more than the impact we saw during, say, the global financial crisis. However, India is expected to come out of it or bear it relatively better compared to several other large economies around the world. But additional government push or impetus will surely be needed to help come out of this. Despite all the upheavals we spoke about, the current pandemic also presents an opportunity to cash in on new strategies and investment avenues across the different asset classes. Having said that, it's also time to be cautious and tread that path carefully. Say for developers, it's important to manage the cash flows from a revenue realizability perspective, as well as the impact of possible cost escalations. For occupiers, be it in the office segment or the retail segment, workable solutions will need to be arrived at with developers, be it with respect to delay in committed timelines for handing over properties or coming to terms with future rentals. The right alignment will help come out of the situation together successfully. For investors, for investments already done, close portfolio monitoring should be undertaken along with the screening and identification of new investments at attractive valuations, which will come up. A lot of those will come up. Finally, as highlighted in the previous slides, there is no one-size-fits-all strategy. The strategic goals for each user are different, and hence a regular assessment by third parties will ensure an arm's length assessment as well as a timely identification of red flags. I guess that summarizes our session today, and with that, we're open for questions. Jatin, can I request you to take on the first one?
Yeah, thank you, Divya, and it's a great one. So we have one question which has been asked and it's been directed to me on what is the long-term impact of property assessment on the developers. Divya has already explained in her previous slides about the how the valuation is going to move across various asset classes. My views on this subject are that in the longer term, you are holding an asset which is a valued asset. It all depends on how longer can you hold to that asset, and how and can you wait for various institutes coming across to you, or financial institutes coming across to you, and upscaling the investments portfolio for you. It's going to be a evaluation which you need to do. From a technical perspective, the asset development, if you are still on a land stage, which I mentioned about it, if you're still on a land stage or a design stage, the asset might have to be reevaluated from the perspective of what should be built in current situation and how the campus should be built up. Plus, what are the technological innovations which can be further upgraded, be it a BMS, be it a certification perspective, be it improving the lifestyle or the quality of the end occupier, keeping that in mind. The overall gradation of your assets between a Class A asset or a Class B asset can be determined based on this, and this will improve accordingly. Those kind of interventions will accordingly place you in a different bracket and will improve the entire valuation of your asset. Or that's my perspective. And similarly, from a technical due diligence perspective, we will be able to give a better rating for those kind of assets if an opportunity is been given and the questions are being raised to us by the institutes or financial institutes or the investors' perspective. Yeah. I hope I've been able to answer that for you. Divya?
So I'll take the next one. The next one that's come is, how do you view land rates going forward? So the key determinants to drive land values are the permissible use of the land and the demand for that use. Obviously, there are factors like development potential or FSI, location and access, and micro market dynamics, which all come into play. So we discussed that commercial and logistics sector are expected to drive growth in the next few quarters. Demand for, say, data centers would be high, and sites which offer good location and have good power provisions, etc., would see a high traction. Whereas since residential demand would be subdued in the short term, we may see more negotiations happening and probably a longer timeline for transactions to conclude. In fact, most developers have been and probably will also further prefer JV/JD models rather than buying out land. But we need to keep in mind that given the overall economic outlook, most land transactions will be buyer tilted than seller driven.
I have another question which has come up is what measures to be adopted to minimize technical impacts on the project? It's a pretty nice question, and just again to reiterate, the project design or the cycle or the life cycle entire project is now going to be dependent on how safe, how good your asset is in terms of for the occupiers or for the tenants. So a lot of investments are going to happen on technology, a lot of investments are going to happen on giving us a quality environment to the occupier. The technical impacts are going to be felt more from perspective of having a better indoor air quality, more from a perspective of having a entire well-being concepts being adopted in any of the developments which are going to happen. A lot of emphasis is going to happen there. So right from the drawing stage, right from the design stage, it is recommended that these issues are being addressed at the design level. The properties which are under facility, which are already been occupied, are under the facility are with the facility management teams. They will have to be realigned, redesigned. The layouts are to be relooked at it. The air conditioning units have to be reviewed from the filtration capacities, from the what kind of filters you're putting on the AHUs, what kind of indoor air quality are you going to give to the end user, screening right at the entrance and without taking the visitors up. There are a lot of security issues which are going to be incorporated in the layouts. And the properties which are also midway during construction, all these aspects should be relooked into it so that in future, these issues are not being looked into it as if a negative score from that perspective when it comes to your asset, and when the comparisons are being drawn between a grade A specification and a grade B specification. So at design stage, yes, we need to go back to the drawing boards again and relook at all these aspects from a technical impact perspective on a very immediate basis. That's our recommendation.
So the next one, the question that we have is that RBI has extended the moratorium period from 3 months to 6 months. So what is the impact of this? So basically, this has been provided to give a breather to the cash-driven developers as well as individual buyers. However, it's important to also bear in mind that one needs to do a proper analysis and see that if you have the cash, then probably don't avail of it, because it can really have a compounding effect on the overall cost. So one will have to see how your business goals are aligned and then take a call on this. But eventually, again, this is in line with what we were talking. The government is giving push and intends to help the sector, not just real estate, but overall the economy. And once the economy helps and comes on a revival path, it impacts all sectors which play a part of it.
Another question, a pretty interesting one again. Can the government speed up the process of permissions and clearances to help the industry? This is indeed a recommended, objective which every industry body is currently approaching the government. And we have been attending a lot of webinars where Hardeep Puri himself was part of these discussions. And there has been a greater push to see that all the approvals are being taken up timely. Aspects of SEZ clearances are being tabled. The government has actually moved in immediately, and now they have reconstituted the bodies also. There are certain bodies which had in certain cities had the time period had lapsed, but those bodies, because of COVID situation, were not meeting or they were not formulated. Now we see in last 10 days this situation has improved. There have already been certain cases which have been filed to SEZ appellate to increase the time duration of the project. A classic example being Infosys, which came in the newspaper. There have been MOEF bodies which were state bodies which were not constituted. They have been reconstituted again now. So yes, the steps have been taken by the government. There is a push from the industry at the highest level to see and work with the local governments to expedite the approvals. It's going to take a little time, but I'm sure government will also realize that this is the only way to get the projects out from the drawing board and to the construction site and increasing the revenue for the or the state governments themselves. So this will happen. It will take little time, but yes, it's going to happen to expedite all the clearances. Divya, you want to take the next one?
Yeah, so the next one is, how will valuation methodologies change given the current crisis? So there are three approaches to valuation. The cost approach, which actually takes into consideration how much cost will go into buying out an asset. The market approach, which is basically a benchmark of transactions that have been undertaken and pegged against, and that's how a valuation is arrived at. And then the income approach, which is primarily forecasting future cash flows and then ascertaining the value of the property. Depending on the asset type and stage of construction, different approaches have been used. Typically, in most cases, a combination of these approaches, a single or more approaches are used to assess the value. In the current situation, owing to the market disruption, there would not be relevant comparables to apply the market approach. Hence, for a while, the income approach would need to be relied upon. And over a period of time, once transactions start picking up, the market approach will start becoming more relevant. In fact, even in the income approach, there would be potential changes around assumptions, and probably new variables will need to be built in to cater to the risk. These would then sort of need to be fine-tuned basis how the market dynamics evolve.
Great. I will take the next one. Divya, this is another one good question, that due to lockdown, properties are vacated and nobody is occupying. To start this with safety and bring in confidence in the mind of occupier, what measures should be taken? Great. I touched base upon this during my discussion earlier, that at Colliers we have launched a workplace strategy navigator program, which actually evaluates the layouts which have been designed for pre-COVID situation. We do a virtual tour of the entire property with the help of the occupier, and if the layouts were already planned, we review those layouts. We touch base upon 15 different parameters, including the designs, including the hygiene conditions, including the communication protocols, including the how a movement will happen right from the entrance to the desk of an individual, marking up that, realigning and re-strategizing the layouts, keeping the social distancing norms in place, etc., and improving, giving solutions to improve the, again coming back to the being repetitive, but improving the indoor air quality aspects of it, cleaning up the air conditioning aspects, changing the filtration systems, how the sanitization will happen, from where an employee has to sit, how the meetings will be conducted, which are the options which are available on the furnitures and other accessories which are available in the market. So all this are being divided into immediate steps which can be taken, long-term steps which can be taken, and mid-term steps which can be taken. A full complete report is being submitted to all the occupiers based on the study which has been done. Coming to the sites which are under construction and where which you can see that which have not been completed as per the norms and as per the requirement, all the strategies have been already been implemented to give the occupiers a facet that yes, the necessary requirements and necessary steps have been taken, basically so that they can go back to their own employees and they can say that this are safe working environments. The lockdown situation has opened up these opportunities, and we all are working towards that. It's not only us. I would say that all the other IPCs and all the other project management professionals who are part of this and real estate industry have given the solutions with the help of the architects and other consultants to all the occupiers. And these are very nice positive steps which have been taken. Divya?
So the next question is, what kind of correction may take place in Grade A office market in Hyderabad? So we spoke about how correction in office would play out. And Hyderabad, there is a huge amount of supply, all concentrated in an area of Gachibowli, Madhapur, and there is a huge amount of supply. So this will create pressure on rentals, at least in the short term. And because supply is high, because of which the developers will really not be able to increase the rentals, and there will be a subdued pressure on rentals in that market.
I think Divya, the next question is also for you from a student of NECMAR, if you can answer that.
Okay, that's an interesting question. So the question says that, so it's come from one of the students. He says, I understand that the real estate sector will get impacted owing to COVID. How much impact will that have on the demand for professionals who want to build their career in the field of valuation and advisory? It's nice to see how young professionals are gearing up to start off in this industry. And I honestly believe this sector has a lot of exciting things to offer, and especially in valuation and advisory, where you get a flavor of different asset classes and work with different stakeholders, be it developers, occupiers, or investors. As things evolve, the complexity in the market also increases, and this actually increases the need for professionals with strong fundamentals, good corporate ethics, and a drive to grow. Plus, the real estate sector itself is getting more organized each year. There is foreign investment coming in different asset classes, and the government is also bringing in a new law to set up a national body of valuation professionals in line with what they have, say, for chartered accountants, in order to regulate and have an institutional framework for valuers. So all of this is going to boost the overall ecosystem for budding valuers. Hope that answers.
I have one more question. I think we have this time left to take one more question here. What value will technical assessment or due diligence add to the real estate investor? The technical due diligence team in Colliers has been actually giving an unbiased opinion to the investors and to all the financial institutes on again from a grading of an asset, from an approval perspective, from a design perspective, from a technical perspective, which eventually helps the investors or the occupier to take an opinion on and a considered one, that whether they should invest in that property or not. So apart from the valuation, which is an important aspect of the entire deal, a legal review of the entire property aspect, the technical aspects also become extremely important. So all these three goes hand in hand to assess the right value of the property and whether the property is technically complying to all the requirements during the post investments. So I hope I've been able to answer that for you also. Yeah. So if I think we are, Sukanya, do we have more time to take questions, or you would like to tell us about this?
I think we close for today. And thank you very much, Jatin and Divya, for this informative session. And in case we've missed out on a question, we apologize and we request our audience to get in touch with our experts for more information. Thank you very much for joining our session today. Thank you.